First of all, I apologize for not being there in person, but I thank you so much that you gave me the opportunity to talk to you from Estonia and not be there. So who am I? I'm Kristin Kuusk. I work at the Estonian Health Insurance Fund as an innovation specialist. And today I will talk about the payer perspective when we're talking about digital health and innovation. And the main goal of my brief presentation at the end of the day is to basically leave you with some questions that you should think about whilst developing your products, because I do understand that the public today, there's quite a lot of different companies who are developing digital health products aimed at people to use to support their health. And again, as I am an Estonian working at the Estonian Health Insurance Fund, it's kind of like a case study from the Estonian perspective. But let's go. So just to set the scene, because each country has a different healthcare system at the end of the day, and I would like to briefly just introduce what is the Estonian Health Insurance Fund and what is the role in the healthcare system. We are the main payer for healthcare in Estonia. The healthcare financing is based on solidarity funding and universal access to services. So we are an insurance company at the end of the day. And our main task is then to organize the national health insurance to provide people with the right access to the healthcare services. And how do we do so? The key thing here that I will briefly touch upon today as well, as we are an insurance company, it's also important to understand that in the past 5 years, our role in the healthcare ecosystem has been changing, in that sense that insurance funds usually are just the payers. They only pay for healthcare. But in Estonia, we have approached it a little bit differently. And now in the past years, Estonia is actively leading the innovation in healthcare to make sure that with the limited funds that we have, there's also new services coming in that then add value to the whole industry, basically, at the end of the day. So how do we do so? We do it via different means, via just central procurement, or then creating opportunities for innovation to take place at the end of the day. And again, numbers are always good to illustrate. So the Estonian healthcare budget, based on the size of the country as well, it's not the biggest, but the overall budget is 2.2 billion. But to put it in perspective, Estonia has 1.3 million people, so we are really a small nation. Right. So I already kind of mentioned it already. We are an insurance fund, but obviously there's quite a lot of different threats taking place or challenges to tackle at the end of the day to make sure that people have access to healthcare services, that they're able to take care of their health. So that's the main reason why the Health Insurance Fund in Estonia is really heavily investing in the activities that I will briefly talk about today. Overall, as the Estonian Health Insurance Fund, we have quite an impressive portfolio of different national digital health products. And it's really important to mention here that all these products that are brought out, they are available to the people nationally. We have a centralized system. So again, if there is a decision, for example, to introduce the health portal, then again, it's introduced and adapted across the whole country. So I understand that for example, in Germany or in Italy as well, you are a bigger country, you have different regions, and the different regions that make the whole, but Estonia, the approach at the end of the day is just really, really centralized. And we already have quite an impressive set of digital health products in our portfolio. Some that are brought out here, some of them are developed and led by us in that sense that we are the product owners, but some products here again, they are realized at the end of the day with the help from the private companies. So specifically what I mean here is the clinical decision support system. That's something that is available for the healthcare workers to access across the country. But the Estonian Health Insurance Fund, we don't actually own the product. This is made possible in cooperation with companies who then actually own the product, but we are just leading the usage and paying for the adoption in the Estonian system. So there's quite like a concrete one is we develop our own products to use, and the other is we do it in cooperation with private companies and take specific products to use. And if we talk about the questions that I mentioned from the public payer view, it's really, really important from our perspective to think about, okay, what roles can and should be taken? As I already mentioned, should we procure something centrally, as I gave the example from the clinical decision support tool, or should we develop it basically from scratch ourselves? So that's something that we are always continuously thinking about. What makes the most sense? Should we make it ourselves or should we procure it? And overall, it's really, really important that whatever the approach, we are talking about the same set of standards. So for example, if we are procuring a product or if we're developing a product, we are building it all on the same set of standards that are then basically coming from the national, regional standard sets. And as I said as well, we are taking on a more active role to make sure that the innovative services are happening, that there are funds available for basically develop these new services, new products and such. And from a role point of view, something that we also do is we finance innovation. And what I mean by that, and I will speak about it in the coming slides a little bit more, but that we have an innovation scheme that then basically entities, our partners outside of the health insurance fund, whether it being hospitals or GPs or private companies, they can then apply for funding to carry out the study to then bring back reliable information about the specific product or service that then the Estonian Health Insurance Fund should be reimbursing because it has the high value at the end of the day. And when we talk about value, from our perspective, it's really, really important to keep in mind the bigger perspective. One thing is, yes, you might have a really specific digital product that is, for example, aimed at a specific disease. But when you're developing it, it's really, really important to keep the full perspective in mind, in that sense that we're not just focusing on that we will introduce this specific product, but okay, but how will the patient use it? What is the patient journey? Where does the new solution fit in? And the other side, of course, is the healthcare practitioner journey. If there is a new digital product that should be used, okay, how will the information actually move? What does the healthcare practitioner basically need to do to ensure that you're actually adding value with the new product instead of basically creating more and more burdens, because again, digital products, they add so much value, But if we look at from the healthcare practitioner's perspective, we might end up with 10 different solutions. And if they're not linked together logically, at the end of the day, it can be really hard to use. So I think it will actually put a burden on the adaptation of a specific product. So I think that's really key. Think about what is the patient journey, what steps need to be taken, where does it fit in general, and then you mirror the healthcare practitioner's journey on the other side. And most importantly, and again, is the question, what problem are you solving? Is it a problem also for the patients? And is it also a problem worth solving from the healthcare practitioner? And basically just constantly, continuously validating with your main target market at the end of the day. Because I've seen it quite a bit is, okay, you have a really, really great idea. There is a product in development, you reach something, you invest quite a lot of money. And then at the end of the day, it's like, actually, that's not a problem that the patients are waiting to solve at the end of the day. So it's just kind of keeping this in mind always and forever. And again, when we talk about how to adapt these new products into these patient or healthcare journeys, from our side, it's important to always pilot. So with piloting, you have the possibility to then test it out. Does it actually work in the day-to-day processes? Does it actually add the value that you claim to have? But from, again, what we have learned with these different products that I showed, and also with different projects that we run, is to keep in mind, okay, pilot is a great thing, but keep in mind how you will then bridge from pilot to practice. Because it's quite often that if you have this ideal Petri dish environment, basically, at the end of the day, it might not, again, be the same thing if you go into the everyday, day-to-day practice. So just to try to plan and think 3 steps ahead, if possible. And what I briefly mentioned, that the Estonian Health Insurance Fund, we have different means of making sure that the innovation takes place, but as well as that the people continuously have access to new products and services. And one of the activities that the Health Insurance Fund is doing, what I mentioned already, is the innovation grant. And the main purpose for it is to obtain the reliable real-world data about new service models' effectiveness, cost efficiency, ease of use, compared to the current best practices. And again, I touched upon on it already, but it's really, really important, like, what is the full service model? If you have a really specific product that, for example, it's meant for the people who have diabetes, that's great. But then let's zoom out, and where will this new product actually make sense? In which phase will it then add value? Because from the health insurance perspective, it's really, really important that we keep the full picture in mind, that we're not just focusing on a single product. And again, as I mentioned, this is an innovation grant meant for the external partners that they have an idea, they have some sort of data already when it comes to like some proof already, and then they would like to validate it once more to make sure that if the main hypotheses are validated, that this adds the value that it's intended, we're able to then add it to the Estonian healthcare services list to make it available for people in the healthcare system. And I will just finish on basically bringing the different steps that I already mentioned when we look at the company view, basically how the health insurance fund sees what are the specific steps that need to be taken to reach then the permanent listing reimbursement phase. Obviously, it all starts with an idea. You have an idea, and the key here, what I mentioned there already, is the problem validation over and over again. From there on, moving on to the product development, just actually developing the MVP, something that you can actually then test on the target market that you validated the problem with. And if you get the first kind of data that this is something to keep on working, then we move on to the information security, data protection, effectiveness, and security to make sure that the products that you're building, they are secure. Because let's be honest, in healthcare, it's of key value. And then the next phase at the end of the day is the feasibility study. But it quite often will consist of different studies to validate and bring the evidence needed that you claim to have, or like the value that you claim to have. And from the feasibility study phase, we reach the health impact, economic impact, which is more often a clinical randomized trial. So again, from the feasibility study, you get the initial validated proof that there is value, there is saving, cost efficiency, and so on and so forth. So reaching the next phase of studies, basically, to really solidify and bring out the health impact and the economic impact that is important for the health insurance fund to understand, evaluate, and then basically reach the permanent listing. I thank you for listening. I can't see you, so I'll stop sharing my screen. And if you have any questions, I'm open for them.